Welcome back, everybody. Earl at thelogbook.com with more tales of infinite sheep. Stories from the local TV trenches as they existed back in the 90s. This is really just kind of a series of stories about... I'm not going to say the job description doesn't exist anymore, but it does not exist as I knew it. It does not exist in the form that I knew it, because local TV is effectively dead in this day and age. That's a tragedy, because with it goes actually having local news, local weather, especially if you're in an area that gets bad weather. You're literally placing your life in the hands of, the nearest actual newsroom owned by the same company, which may not exist. It may just be, hey, we'll put a thing in the corner. We'll put a map in the corner. That's all. We'll just run the old Chiron Cody, and that's all these people deserve. They are not worthy of our time or attention. And you lose out on local stuff like what I was getting to do in the 90s, which... as I've often said, and, like it says in the opening of this show every time, no time and no budget. What we did have, however, was we had an Amiga 4000 with the video toaster. Part of the video toaster was a 3D animation program called Lightwave. I got to know Lightwave very well just from tinkering with it. At first just for fun, just to kind of blow off steam, see what I could make with it. And then it gradually became apparent, there are applications for this. One such application was the 1995 Halloween legal ID on Fox 46, which was just a little morsel of video toaster animation that, for whatever reason, whatever headspace I was in the day that I did this, it was like, you know what? Let's scare the crap out of everyone who sees this ID on the air. Let's show it to you. And I may show it to you again later after explaining it, but let's see this thing in all of its very murky glory. I will admit that this is gently upscaled, because I do not have the original tapes. I have the website showreel that I used to have was very heavily dependent on flash animation. That animation was converted from VHS tape through a program called Sorensen Squeeze, which would knock it down to a bite-sized flash animation. This is at a time when broadband internet was just barely becoming a thing. And so, I do not still have the master VHS tape this was on, and I don't even know if the 3/4 inch U-matic tape that this started out on, I don't know if that even exists anywhere, and I certainly don't have access to it. So I am having to take these, and Sorensen Squeeze had an upper limit on your picture resolution, and it was below 640 by 480. It was below SD. So I have tried as best I can to bump these back up to just barely standard def, so they look something like they used to back in the day, but something is lost in the translation here, especially because analog videotape did not handle certain parts of the color spectrum well, including reds and purples. Those would tend to bleed a lot, very appropriately for this one, but the fidelity of color recording on analog videotape left something to be desired. And so here, it's kind of a double whammy. You're at the whims of the weaknesses of both analog videotape and early analog to digital conversion. With that disclaimer out of the way, let's take a look. This is as good as I could get it to look.
Happy Halloween from KPBI Fox 46.
Okay, so some liner notes on that. Our video toaster, now our Amiga 4000 did not have a huge amount of memory, and so your upper limit on animation was it could do 4 seconds of 30 frame animation at a time. And anything longer than that, you had to output those 4 seconds to tape. And you could set this up as a long animation and just render certain slices of it. And so usually the workflow was, okay, is that 4 seconds of animation, does that look like what we want it to look like? Cool. Run it off to 3/4 inch tape. And now render the next 4 seconds, usually overnight. Usually that'd be a thing that you would set it and forget it, come back in the morning, hope that it looked the way you wanted it to, back that tape up frame by frame by frame, output it to tape. Okay, now you've got 8 seconds of animation. Okay, our jack-o'-lantern here was just a 4-second animation. And if I remember correctly, it was a very low poly jack-o'-lantern from I would almost swear it was from an Amiga dial-up BBS. We were that low-tech and we were that cheap. It was a public domain object. The knife and the candle were objects that were already included with Lightwave. And so, I set up light sources in the eyes of the jack-o'-lantern. I set up a flickering light source on the candle. Is basically a light source that I told it, okay, dim, brighten, dim, brighten. And then I put a sort of undulating liquid surface at the bottom of it. Spoiler, it's blood. And I lit everything so that surface would read as red liquid. So I was trying to scare the crap out of everyone.
Happy Halloween from KPBI Fox 46.
And that was totally my voice. I don't think I can even do that anymore. I remember anytime I did that voice, I kind of called it monster voice. That pretty much wrecked my voice for about the next 12 to 16 hours. The music, if I remember correctly, there was a CD that I had imported called ENSO, which was the New Zealand Symphony Orchestra, NZSO, doing orchestral renditions of the music of Split Enz, which was a rock band that I was very fond of from New Zealand. The Split Enz being ENZ, so it was ENZSO, ENSO. If I'm not mistaken, that passage of music, that very diabolical sounding passage, that's not from a film score. I believe that's in the middle of the ENSO cover of Under the Wheel, which was an early 70s prog rock song, which, also had this completely bonkers middle section. And this was just their best orchestral effort at paying homage to that. And so, yeah, we got some stock thunder sound effects and do the monster voice and then just let the music go absolutely guano crazy in the middle. We actually did get calls at the station saying, okay, don't show that again. That's scary. Good. So, that was, for whatever my headspace was in Halloween 1995, that was a peek into it, and I just wanted to apparently share with our viewing audience my mental state, such as it was.